My 7th grade ELA research project is about an invitation my great-grandmother and great-grandfather received to go to President John F. Kennedy and Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson's inauguration ceremony. This is what the invitation looks like. Great-grandparents, Oscar and Mabel Cousins, received this invitation because they had worked on LBJ's campaigns. They lived in this small town called Devers, Texas, which is about 30 or so miles outside of Houston. We know that the Cousins family came from Tennessee to Devers, Texas, where eventually my grandfather, Marvin Pop Cousins, was born in 1936 to Mabel and Oscar Cousins. It was pretty prestigious to get an invitation to this inauguration ceremony. One of the facts, besides that he contributed to LBJ's campaign, was that my great-grandfather was the postmaster of Devers, Texas, which was a pretty important position back then. This is some background information about the people being inaugurated. President John F. Kennedy was born on May 29th of 1917, and he went to college at Harvard University. After he left Harvard, he became a naval officer, where his boat, PT-109, was rammed by a Japanese warship. 2 of the sailors on the boat died, and he had a back injury that would plague him for the rest of his life. When he got back home, he wrote a book about it, which gained him national fame. He went back to his home of Massachusetts and ran for the United States House of Representatives from Massachusetts. He won that election, so he challenged Henry Cabot Lodge to the Senate seat from Massachusetts. And he won by a small margin and held that position for 8 years. Eventually he got bored of only dealing with Massachusetts crisis, so he ran for president. Him and his running mate won by a narrow margin, and John F. Kennedy became the 35th president, and also the youngest currently. And his first lady was Jacqueline Bouvier. He died on November 22nd of 1963 in Dallas, Texas, because he was assassinated. President John F. Kennedy's running mate, Lyndon B. Johnson, was born on August 27th of 1908 in Stonewall, Texas. He graduates from college at the Southwest Texas State Teachers College, now known as Texas State. In 1931, he was appointed as legislative secretary to Texas Representative Richard Kleberg, and he makes all his D.C. connections then. In 1934, he meets and marries Lady Bird Johnson, and in 1937, he is elected to the House of Representatives. After the Pearl Harbor bombing in 1941, he is commissioned as a naval officer, and for his service earns the Silver Star. In 1948, he was elected as a U.S. Senator from Texas, and in 1953 becomes the youngest minority leader for the Senate. In 1960, he runs for president, but the young, energetic Kennedy wins the vote, but Kennedy, knowing that he needs the Southern traditional Democratic votes, puts LBJ on the ballot as vice president. In 1960, he's elected as vice president, and in 1963, because of Kennedy's assassination, he becomes president. In 1964, he is elected as president in his own right, and he creates many of the programs the nation has now, such as Medicare, voting rights, and civil rights, and he also started the war on poverty. LBJ's biggest downfall was that he was not able to get the United States out of the Vietnam War, which the nation really wanted to be out of, so he leaves office in 1969, not running for re-election. In 1973, he dies on his ranch in Texas because of heart problems. Reasons LBJ would have been important to my great-grandparents would be that he was the first president that was born and also raised in Texas. He also brought NASA to Houston, and he gave Texas its first of 3 current presidential libraries. My bibliography.